car, SUV, or truck, guess what? You're in luck. Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay, come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier, we got the right price. Frontier, we'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors, low overhead country.
And we are pleased to have the owner of Low Overhead Country, better known as Frontier Motors, with us in our studio here at News Talk 1370 WCOA. Ready, willing, and certainly more than able to take any inquiries from you, preferably by phone. That's the best way to get through to us at 478-3116. Iven Streckel will be pleased to give you the price of a car or a truck or an SUV that you're thinking of buying or selling or trading in, or he'll answer a question about the car business. 478-3116. For the next half hour, this is the Frontier Motor Show. Good morning, Iven Streckel.
Hey, Don. Thanks so much for the introduction. Here we go again. Frontier Motors is bringing you the show on Talk Radio live, but we're also videotaping this for our Blab TV customers. So if you're watching this on TV, don't bother calling in. If you're listening to this on the radio, you can, like Don said, 478-3116. You can join us. What we're going to talk about is what we can do for the people in the Pensacola community to make sure that when they're in the car market, that they get a good deal. And that doesn't necessarily mean they have to run down to Frontier Motors and sign up and buy one of our 400 cars in inventory. But what it does is it gives them the opportunity to use all of the books and references that we have available to us to make sure that, number one, you don't pay too much for a car. Number two, that you buy the right car, buy one that's got a good reputation, that's a good bargain. And number three, also that you get a fair value for the vehicle you're currently driving, which a lot of people are not going to buy the new car until they either retail their old one or they're going to trade it in. So that's what we help you with at Frontier Motors. And one of the ways that we do this on a book value is we use a NEDA guidebook. These books are very important because these are the books that the credit unions, the banks, and most of our local insurance companies are going to use is an NEDA guide. Now, that doesn't mean that's what you pay, but that's what the book value is. So it's very important if you're going to finance a car that you know what the NEDA guidebook is. The other book we use is the Black Wholesale Guidebook. And I have a book that I brought with me to the show for Blab TV customers, so you can see that they still really do have a book. I haven't subscribed to this book in years because I get it on the computer and on my smartphone. This is all the data that's compiled from the auctions, the Manheim auctions, the Odessa auctions, the ABC auctions. But I also, number three, use the auction reports. And everybody knows that there's a Manheim auction right here in Pensacola on W Street. That auction happens to run on Tuesday. They sell anywhere between 500 and 700 cars on a Tuesday. But a lot of people don't know is that the second largest Manheim auction is right here in Orlando. And I have a buyer that drives down there every week. It's on Tuesday also. And they sell anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 cars. That's a lot of cars. Now, that's just two auctions. There's 12 auctions in Florida alone. There's over 100 auctions nationwide. And all this data is compiled instantaneously into my computer called MMR, which is Manheim Market Report. That's the number one feature that I use when I price a car is the retail guidebook as far as what your banker is going to tell you, and then also what the wholesale guidebook is, because that way I know what I can buy a car for. I can put a small profit on there, and that way I know what to price it at. So if, for example, your neighbor's got a 15 Impala they're selling with 30,000 miles, and they're asking $18,000, and I can look at my computer and say, hey, wait a minute, they're going for $14,000 at the auction. Well, I could pay for the shipping, pay the auction fee, and put a profit on it and sell that car for, let's say, $16,500 and still make money on it. And the neighbor's asking $18,000. So you can use that information to get the neighbor to drop their price. Say, hey, I can buy one just like it at Frontier Motors for $16,500, but I'll tell you what, if you drop your car down to $16,500, I'll buy yours. And that could be your next door neighbor. It could be another dealership. When I talk about dealerships, for example, I noticed that when I got my registration reports last month, it said there are 113 used car dealerships in our area. That's Escambia and Santa Rosa County. And there are 23 new car dealerships in Escambia and Santa Rosa County. Folks, that's 136 dealers.
It's a lot.
136 dealers just right here. Yeah. So you can shop till you're blue in the face, but before you buy at one of those other dealers, run the information by Frontier Motors. Call us up at 436-8080. Tell us what you found. Tell us the ID number of the car. We'll run the Carfax report. A lot of these smaller car dealerships charge for Carfaxes. The reason is the Carfax is $40 plus tax. So it's about $42 or $43 for a Carfax report. I'll run that report at no charge for you, whether it be another dealer's car or whether it be your neighbor's car. The other thing I can do is also give you an auto check report. Auto check is the second largest provider of history reports in the nation. So I'll run both these reports at no charge for you. And when I plug that into my computer, it also tells me the average selling price. So I can tell you that, a 15 Impala with 30,000 miles is going to sell for approximately $16,500. And I might, with having almost 400 cars on the lot, I might actually have 2 or 3 of those Impalas sitting in our lot, and you can use those as a reference point. Now, sometimes what happens when you bring me the trade-in to appraise, let's say you're going to go buy from a new Chevy dealer. Let's say you're going to buy from Pete Moore, you're going to buy from Sandy Sansing, which are our 2 local Chevrolet dealerships. And I always urge you that if you're going to buy locally, if you're going to buy locally. So hit each one of them up, see which one you want to do business with. But before you go there, let us appraise the trade for you. Maybe I want the trade more than they want it. A lot of times why you get a small appraisal or a lower appraisal on a car is because, number one, maybe they have multiples in stock. Maybe they have 7 of them sitting there. This happened at the Lexus dealership last year. I remember it like it was yesterday because a customer came in with their Lexus and they're going to buy a brand new Lexus, and they've already been to the Lexus dealership. And I said, well, why didn't you just trade it in there? They said, well, because we went there and they weren't very interested in my Lexus. I said, how's that? I think it was a 2013 model. They said, because they had 13 of them in stock.
Grief.
And they weren't selling. So they wanted mine like a hole in the head. So they gave me a really low appraisal, and I heard your appraisal, and they had called us up for an appraisal over the phone, and ours was quite a bit higher than what they got over there. Obviously, they went over to the C because they wanted to.
Right.
I told you your car was worth $20,000, and you're going to go buy a new Lexus. Well, you can use that figure, and you go over there, and they tell you 17. What are you going to do? You're going to sell it to us, of course. Now, sometimes what happens is you can trade it at that dealership, and I'll buy it right from that dealer. That way you've got a little bit of a tax credit. If you don't know how the tax credit works, let me just explain it real briefly. If you have a $20,000 trade, let's say you got a car that's worth $20,000 and you're buying a $20,000 used truck at Frontier Motors, your tax liability is 0 because the government lets you use it as a trade-in, so you're paying 0, well, then you pay taxes on 0. If you sold me that $20,000 car and you went out to World Ford and bought a $20,000 truck, you're going to have to pay around $1,500 or $1,600 in taxes. So when you trade, there's a little bit of a benefit, but I can get you the best of both worlds. For example, if you're going to buy a brand new Lexus and I have a higher appraisal, you can still go there, trade it in, and I'll buy it right from them. That way you get the tax credit. I don't have to pay tax because I'm not the user of the vehicle, so I buy it from them for $20,000, for example, and I sell it, and the person that buys it from me is going to be responsible for the taxes. So that's how that works, and that's why sometimes a dealer can talk you into trading a car in, even though it might be a little less than what you would want, because there's a tax credit. Well, I always say get the best of both worlds.
478-3116. How would you like to speak with Iven Streckel? We can arrange that. Give us a call here on News Talk 1370 WCOA. This is the Frontier Motor Show on Talk at 10. Got 20 minutes left. Iven Streckel at Frontier Motors, which is located at 230 Beverly Parkway, would be happy to talk with you, answer questions, give you a price if that's what you would like. 478-3116. Iven?
And thanks, Don. And when we talk about the Frontier Motor Show, I would have to always, every show, I have to explain that Consumers Reports finally put into writing what I've been talking about for 20 years on the WCOA radio show. And in last April's edition on page 21, they said that the average new car sold last year was $34,000. I thought that was higher than that, but that's the actually that's the average transaction price. It could have been a $39,000 car that they discounted and threw in a rebate. So the average transaction price last year was $34,000. 1 year depreciation. The first year, Consumers Report says it's 27% on the average. That's $9,200 depreciation in year one alone. If you know that, why would you buy a brand new car? I can't figure it out. And I brought some examples with me when I talk about depreciation. And also, by the way, in year two, you lose $12,500 on the total. Year 3, your total loss on the $34,000 car is 46% at $15,600. And in the 4th year, you lose 56% of the value, which is a $19,000 loss on a $34,000 car. And that's why you buy the alternative to new and you shop Frontier Motors. I just bought a car the other day and I brought the window sticker. I made a copy of the window sticker. This has happened to be a 2013 BMW 750 Li sedan. Now, if you don't know what a 750 BMW is, it's the biggest car they make. It's their luxury car. It's the nicest one, and it's also the most expensive. This car had a window sticker originally of $103,000. So it's got some features on it. It had about $10,000 worth of options on it, including the driver's assist package, which is the blind spot detection, the executive package, the M Sport package. It goes on and on. $103,000 car. It's got 38,000 miles on it. It still has warranty because the warranty goes up to, no, I think it's got 47,000 miles. The warranty goes up to 50,000 miles, so it still has 3,000 miles of warranty left. Folks, the car is $39,900. Can you imagine, Don, if you would have bought that car? If you were lucky enough to win the lottery,
right,
and you went up to the BMW dealership and bought this car for $103,000, and I tell you that 3 years later, the wholesale value of the car is around $35,000, and I'm selling it for $39,000. Isn't that something? That's depreciation. I've got a Mitsubishi Mirage, a 2017 Mitsubishi Mirage. It's got 20 miles on it. I've got a Mitsubishi Outlander with 20 miles on it. I've got a Chevy Sonic with 100 miles on it. I've got a Highlander with 300 miles, a Ford Escape with 800 miles, an Infiniti QX50 Sport Utility with 1,000 miles on it. I specialize in finding these cars all over the Southeast. And I bring them back to Frontier Motors in the middle of Escambia County, 2 blocks outside of Car City. And I reduce the price of these cars by the depreciation, still make money on the cars, but I'm able to save you thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's our whole claim to Frontier Motors. I always say that we're not a specialty dealer. For example, if you consider specialty, if you go to the BMW Mini dealership, what is their specialty? Well, obviously, it's Mini Coopers. Even on their used car lot, I would assume they have more Mini Coopers than anything else. If you go to Leo's Corvettes, what does he specialize in? He specializes in Corvettes. If you go to Frontier Motors, we don't specialize in anything. With having almost 400 cars in inventory, we have every make and model. But if you're going to push me to say, well, you got to be something that puts you above everybody else. And that's the fact that I try to have at least 150 cars on the lot that have under 20,000 miles on them. A lot of them under 10,000 miles, a lot of them under 5,000 miles, because those are the alternative to new. So really our competition is not the other 113 used car dealerships out there. It's the new car dealers. So I always urge you that if you're going to go new car shopping, go to the new car dealership, ask them for one thing. Ask them to give you an out-the-door price. Forget about the rebates, forget about the trade-in value, the discount, all that garbage, their dock fee. It doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is what do you got to write that check for? Or if you're going to finance it, how much do you have to finance? And let's say that bottom line figure is $25,000, just for giggles and grins, and I'm at $20,000 on one that's got 7,000 miles on it. Now you got a decision to make. Should I save $5,000, buy one with 7,000 miles, or get a brand new one with no miles on it for $5,000 more? I've been able to convince people to save the $5,000 over the last 20 years. Don, do we have a call?
This is Jeb.
Jeb?
Hey, good morning, folks. How are you guys doing this
I'm
morning?
doing good. Thanks for calling the show. How can we help you?
Indeed, a pleasure. I've listened for years.
Great.
Interesting question. A buddy of mine needs to sell his vehicle, and I recommended that he call you and sell it in consignment.
Okay.
And I was listening to your show, I believe it was last week, and not that the vehicle's germane, but it's a 2015 Chevrolet Spark with 20,000 miles.
Okay.
And if I heard you correctly, you used the expression that even if you wanted to buy a car from another dealership, that you would buy the trade-in.
Yes.
Ivan, my question is, and it may be difficult to answer, the percentage difference. For example, would he benefit by trying to do it on consignment, or is it a money in pocket now benefit to go ahead and just let you buy the car from him. Do you understand my question, sir?
Yeah, that's good. I understand the question. That's a good question. And the way that I would, the number one thing that's going to be important is, does he have the ability to drop the car off? 50% of the people that I talked about consignments can't do a consignment because it's their daily driver. They're driving that car to go to work and stuff. So obviously the only way I can do a consignment is if he drops it off. Also, most people aren't able to buy the new car before they get rid of the old car. So, but let's say that he's in that in that position where he can buy the new car without getting rid of the smart car first. At that point, what we would want to do is I would appraise the car for him and say, okay, here's what I'll buy it for. I'll write you a check for this. And normally the consignment figure is going to be between $1,000 to $1,500 more than the buy figure. Let's just say hypothetically the buy figure is $7,000. I would say I'll give you $8,000, and depending on the car, maybe $8,500 on consignment. We don't charge a percentage. We don't charge a fee. If I feel the car is worth $8,500 on consignment, I'm thinking I could probably still sell it for $9,500 and make $1,000 on it. So it's kind of a win-win situation for everybody where he's getting more than wholesale, but less than retail. So that's how that consignment would work. But we do, and by the way, I've got a smart car on the lot right now. Or did you say it was you said it was a smart car, right?
No, sir. A Spark. Chevrolet
okay.
Spark.
Yeah, and I do have a Spark on the lot. But it doesn't really matter. I like consignments because I'm able to get cars that I normally wouldn't buy. For example, if I've got let's say I had the twin to his. Well, I wouldn't have a big incentive to buy another one unless it was a super bargain. So the way to get him to get the proper dollar amount is to offer that consignment. And I've got, out of the 400 cars that we have in inventory right now, I normally have between 30 to 40 on consignment at all times. And I always tell people, I says, if you go to a dealership that does consignment, do not go somewhere that charges you a monthly fee. There's one dealer, a prominent dealer in Pensacola, that charges $250 a month to do consignments. Well, what is the incentive for them to sell it? They're making a profit by not selling it. So you always want to go to a dealership that doesn't charge a percentage, that just tells you, okay, if I sell it, here's your check you're going to get. We put that in writing, and we give it to you as a copy, and we keep a copy of it. And it works really good for us. So definitely tell him to come and see us.
I will, and I'm going to make arrangements to help him and the car get out there.
Right.
But it basically, and you gave me a good number. 7, you'd pay for it, 8,500 consignment, and that kind of answered my question.
Now that's not on his car. I'm just giving you as a generic.
I understand that, but no.
Yes.
The question was, what was the difference in the percentage, and you answered my question, and I'm very grateful.
Okay, thanks for calling the show. I appreciate it. And sometimes the difference, if he's still listening, sometimes the difference is more than that. I had a truck the other day that I was appraising for someone, and it was a kind of a weird truck because it was a Chevrolet Dually. It was a 2013 Dually, but it had 117,000 miles on it. So that kind of scared me. So what I offered them, and I don't forget the figures, but let's just say I offered them a buy bid of $30,000, but I gave them a consignment offer of $34,000. Because and I told them right off the bat, my buy bid was low because I was a little scared of a vehicle that new that had 117,000 miles on it, even though it was gorgeous. But somebody's going to have a hard trouble swallowing that, other than the fact the new one's $65,000. Right. But that still, doesn't that sound like a lot of miles?
It does sound like a lot of miles
for a car that's 3 years
such a
old.
short time.
Yeah, 3.5 years old. So sometimes the consignment figure, I told Jeb on the phone, is normally $1,000 more, sometimes $1,500 more. But if you've got a specialty vehicle, I'll give you a lot more than that. So that kind of answers the consignment figure. And a lot of times what we do is we'll just write you a check. I advertise that we buy cars, whether you buy a car somewhere else or not. Now, I know there's a lot of dealerships that do that, but a lot of dealerships don't have the buyer in-house. They have a buyer that they hire to buy their cars. The problem is the buyer is very rarely at the dealership. He's out buying cars. He's at the auctions. He's at other dealerships going around and trying to snag as many as he can. So you go there on that dealer that advertised that, and there's nobody there to give you the figure. The used car appraiser a lot of times does not do the buying for the dealership. They only do the appraising for trade-ins. At Frontier Motors, I've got 4 people there. As long as we're open, there'll be 4 people there that can give you a figure on your car. So we make sure that we can give you a price. We try to get this done between 10 and 15 minutes. The only time it takes longer than that, if it's a high-mileage car that I have to do an inspection on through our mechanic, to make sure that there's nothing wrong with the car. Because sometimes driving the car around the lot doesn't give me a good perspective. This morning we had a Land Rover that had 77,000 miles on, but it had a little tick in the engine. And I really didn't know if that was normal or not. And our mechanic wasn't working today, so I couldn't give them that figure because I want to make sure I've got a mechanic there. But most of the time, folks, if you're going to buy a car anywhere, new or used, neighbor, relative, doesn't matter, bring us your car and let us give you a figure on that car. The advantage that you're going to have is I can write you a check, you can take your tag off of, cancel the insurance, and you're done instantaneously. And then if that figure is not enough, I'll give you a little bit more on consignment. And worst comes to worst, if those figures aren't enough, I can tell you here's what that vehicle should retail for if you decide to sell it yourself. I don't need monthly payments. I want you to give me the car for free. And I want as much as possible. And then they ask you things like, well, what do you want for your trade-in? Well, I'd like to trade even up if possible. I mean, these are stupid questions. Isn't it the dealership's job to tell you, here's what my car retails for? And by the way, here's what I can discount it to. Here's what I can give you for your trade-in. Here's our fees, and here's the bottom line. And that makes it so easy. And then what we do is we put this in writing. We give you a copy. And if you're not ready to purchase right now because you still want to shop around, we tell you go shop. How do you know if you're getting a good deal unless you go somewhere else? And that's kind of unheard of in the car business because everybody in the car business gets taught that you have to make the sale right then and there because if you don't, the customer won't be back. We don't believe in that. We believe that if you treat the customer fairly, you treat them with respect, you give them a good value and a good price right off the bat on a great car, a great product that they're going to buy from us. And I've got so many accolades from our customers that report back to us and say, wow, what a great dealership. And matter of fact, I brought some examples with us. Don, can you share some of those examples with us?
This is from RJ. And I'm assuming RJ is a male. It says, my family and extended family have bought vehicles from you in the past and have been very pleased. This, however, was my first time purchasing a car alone. Nope, it's female. Since my husband passed away about 8 years ago, I almost dreaded the experience, but my sales rep made me feel very comfortable. On my first visit, we did not even go out and look at any vehicles. We stayed at his desk and he answered my many questions. He encouraged me to do my research. I did, and when I found out what I wanted, we made the deal. I never felt pressured. I never felt rushed to buy anything. I definitely will and have recommended Frontier Motors to others. Thank you for making a potentially bad experience a good one. This one is from Deb. Let's see. All right, how about this one? Salesperson Corey Wilkes was an absolute delight. He was knowledgeable and very patient with my wishy-washy mom. Uh-oh.
That's not nice.
Yeah, calling his mom wishy-washy. Frontier Motors is an excellent business, staffed with helpful, caring salespeople who do not pressure shoppers, but instead seem to enjoy helping customers find the right vehicle for their particular needs. Let's try. How about one more? All right, here we go. The friendliness and professionalism of Frontier Motors was expected, as was the quality of their vehicles. What I didn't expect was how fast my deal got done and exactly on the terms that I wanted, on exactly the car that I wanted. I went in looking at a different vehicle because I didn't think I could work with anything else. But boy, was I wrong. I couldn't be happier. When I say my deal got done fast, I mean in less than 2 hours. I was driving away with my new Chrysler 300C. Thanks, Todd, Don, and Calvin, for a job well done. Frontier Motors is definitely first class.
Thanks, Don. And the cool thing about it also, Don, when those customers come on our lot, they're kind of wowed by the inventory. And I always reference our inventory to going to a car show. And the advantage of a car show, of course, is you can go to one place and you can view all makes and models. And if you don't know what you want, let's say you want a sport utility and you're really not sure what you're looking for. You might want to look at a Ford Explorer, maybe a Chevy Traverse, a Buick Enclave, an Acadia, maybe an import like a QX50 Infiniti, or maybe an Armada. You just really not sure. Well, guess what you've got to do? You've got to go each individual dealership. And some of the Highlines aren't in Pensacola. I know we're getting an Audi dealership, but right now, even for Audi, you got to go over to Mobile. An Infiniti, Mobile. If it's a Jaguar, you got to go to Mobile. You know, if it's a Lexus, you got to go to Mobile. You don't if you shop at Frontier Motors. It's like going to a car show because we have those all lined up. And we normally have about 100 to 150 sport utilities. Our salespeople are nice enough to unlock every single one every morning so that if you jump behind the wheel of one, you'll know instantaneously if that car works for you or not, just by how it feels. What's the blind spot like? How's the windshield? How's the steering wheel? How's the seat position? And at most dealerships, they keep their cars locked, so the salesman's got to run back and forth all the time to get the key. And the reason they do that is on purpose. They're not worried about security. What they're doing that for is to make you feel obligated that the salesman's working really, really hard. That makes you more obligated to buy from them. We don't play those games at Frontier Motors. Like I said before, what we do is we urge you to shop around. Now, I've got a computer that does that for me, so when I give you a price when you come in, I already have done all the research to make sure I've got the best price. And if it's not the lowest price, it's going to be the nicest condition car. A lot of people don't put enough emphasis on condition. All they look at is price. When I go to the auction, they rate the cars from 1 to 5. If it's not a 4 to a 5, I don't even look at them. A lot of car dealerships will buy a 3 or a 2 on purpose so they can buy it cheaper, but the car's kind of ratty when it gets there. We don't do that. So we have a better product, or we have lower miles. Let's say we're not the cheapest one, but we've got 6,000 miles instead of 36,000 miles. Or maybe it's the equipment of the car. Maybe our car has a blind spot, the cross-traffic alert safety feature. It's got the auto-leveling headlamps. It's got the backup camera, navigation, and the other car you're looking at doesn't have those features. So those are the reasons that if we're not the least expensive, we're going to have the best deal, so to speak, for you. We went outside of Car City at Frontier Motors for a simple reason, not because we didn't want to be in Car City 21 years ago, but because the price of the property in Car City meant that I'd have to sell the cars for a higher profit. So what we did is we went outside of Car City at Beverly Park. We bought our place for about $110,000, expanded little chunks at a time. And now we've got a full 100-car inventory. And one thing that I always got to talk about, because we've only got 2 minutes left, is that we don't have any problem selling cars at Frontier Motors. We sell between 200 and 275 cars every single week. Make that a month. I wish it was a week.
Yeah.
Every month between 200 and 275 cars, which means I've got to buy somewhere between 50 and 75 cars every week. So I get the word out on this show that if you got a car that you have that you're not driving, you don't need, it's just sitting, you got a company car, or you're going to buy a brand new car, bring us that car, let us evaluate, and let us tell you what we'll write you a check for. I would rather buy a car from a private individual like yourself rather than go to the auction. And the reason is because I don't have to pay the shipping to the auction. I can get it inspected before I buy it, which I can't at auction. The only ones I can buy at auction are the newer cars because they guarantee them, but they don't guarantee the older cars. So that's very important to me. Now, with only having a minute left, I want to let you know that we've got a great website, frontiermotorsinc.com. The cars will have 31 detailed photographs. They all have pricing. Like us on Facebook. And also go to YouTube. This show is going to be on YouTube in a couple days, so if you want to see my ugly mug, you'll find it right there. So if you want to share this with someone, that would be great. To let the people out there in the Escambia and Santa Rosa area know that there's a dealership in town that's not here to grab the wallet out of your back pocket, but that's here to help you to make sure that you get a good deal no matter where it is. It could be at Frontier Motors, it could be down the road, it doesn't matter. We want to spread goodwill throughout the country, I was going to say. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching. Have a great day. Auf Wiedersehen.
Don't overpay, come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier, we got the right price. Frontier, we'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors, low overhead.